William Afton, one of the most interesting characters to come into the Powerscaling community when Week's editing started. And also at the same time, he has become a victim of being massively underrated or treated as such a fodder, along with the entirety of the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, but in specific, only him. And massive misconceptions about his tiering, his way of, existence and stuff are just beyond massively downplayed or not understood. So I thought I'd take my old video and redo it and tell you guys and provide scans, proof, all that, of where does Afton actually scale. This video will basically be going over mostly the books, as those are canon pieces and same continuity and fights and tales as the games and yada yada yada. I explained that in the Shadow Bonnie video, but also have provided other videos and stuff that further elaborated on this thing. But if you want, I will be making a video probably right after this about explaining Five Nights at Freddy's cosmology and how the verse functions and everything you need to know about how the verse works and all that stuff. But without that, let's get into the video. So Afton's first piece of scaling, or rather inverse, is that he should basically be comparable, at least in his human-based form, to that of his creations, so like Withers, Originals, and stuff. This is mainly showed as he can basically harm them, as in FNAF 2. He very likely knocks out Withered Freddy and attacks him and is shown to be faster than him. And in the case of the Originals, he basically dismantles all of them and is even noted by Henry of how basically he overpowered them. Even if you want to argue if these are off-guard feats, Afton should still be somewhat comparable to these characters, as he can still break apart them, affect them, and even in the cases of, well, as I've already noted, he can basically speed blitz them. So he should basically be upscaling the Originals, or at least some half scale to them. Now, I've already made a video about basically the Originals and where they scale and all their feats and stuff that should be noted. But I think I should go over one feat. It was basically the Twisted Ones feat, where basically they, beat the Twisted Ones so badly that a cave connected to a Freddy Fazbear's and Charlie's house fell apart. If you want, you can basically argue this feat to be City Block, mixed on the context of it, as I'm meh. But I think it's fair enough to assume City Block level off that. Other than that, if you guys watch that video, the Originals are like small building plus to highball building level. So Afton would be basically around that. Or if we use division and divide Afton, since Afton's feats on the more meh, then human Afton would at least be around the wall plus ranges. Oh yeah, I actually should note that we'll be going over mainly 3 to 4 Afton variants in this video. The first one we'll be talking about, and I will be nearly finishing, is Human Afton. This is basically William Afton, Dave Miller, and the Spring Bonnie. The next variation we'll be going over is Springtrap and Scraptrap, and then we'll be going over the Afton's Amalgamation from the Fazbear Frights novels, or just Fazbear Frights Afton in general. And then we have FNAF World Springtrap. So yeah, let's get back into that. So for Human Afton, other than his inverse, he basically has another feat where basically he survives getting, punctured and, just torn apart and stuff by the Springlock suit, snapping shut on him and his body. It is noted basically, and I even showed this in the Springlock scans, how they literally will cut you apart, slice your vocal cords, and will just crush you basically. Even shown directly in the FNAF movie, and Afton is surviving this. People try to argue that Afton basically died, but we literally get a direct statement for even the games and the Charlie novels how basically Afton fused with that of the Spring Bonnie suit. So we basically can't take it to a fact that he did survive this. His next feat comes from Afton blitzing Dunn in the Charlie novels. He basically blitzes him from the closet door. He also breaks his arm and throws him like a child, as he describes. Doug even describes Afton having inhuman strength, so literally as a human, Afton would already have like a baseline superhuman type scaling on him. His next feat basically comes from Afton sneaking behind Charlie and grabbing her by the neck and breaking her windpipe. Note, it is revealed later on that Charlie in the Charlie novel series is basically that of a robot, so this would once again support how Afton has superhuman capabilities and is capable of harming his robots to a very good extent. And his last feat as a human is basically in the 4th closet, when he almost gets mauled by Funtime Freddy. Afton stomps and breaks his head from his jaw. So once Funtime Freddy, who once again is more advanced and should be that of superior to that of the originals. So to once again imply how Afton, even as a human, has some demonstration layers of superhuman capabilities and even can harm his own creations if he so needs to, for his own sake. So yeah, that's baseline human Afton. Not really a lot of stuff going on, but he mostly just has inverse on characters. Once again, if you want to say that he's above the OGs, go just watch my OGs video, my updated version of it, and you guys can know where the OGs scale. Alright, next up we're going to go over Springtrap and Scraptrap. Now, for specific feats, Springtrap is capable of traveling throughout all the building of the Fright's location to jump scare Michael, along with at least using UCN lines and FNAF AR lines. We know the characters do maul you apart and dismember you. So, assuming that for the case for Springtrap, well, that is the case. Now, Springtrap does have a movement where basically he also moves through the vents as well at quick paces, which was calculated using Versus Battle Wiki at superhuman speed. I don't really like Versus Battle Wiki as the profiles for FNAF characters downgrade them, and also they have problems with their cannons, but their calcs for the most part are pretty fine. So yeah, we'll move on to Scraptrap. Alright, so let's cover another feat. Basically Springtrap also is noted, basically how he basically survives and tanks the FNAF 3 fire. He's even noted in the encyclopedia as Dark Springtrap that he basically is possibly fire damage, when we basically know that he doesn't have damages on his body. Now, for some odd reason, I'm going to clear this up. People try to make an accusation that Afton basically can't survive fires, or that basically fires could kill him and stuff. This is basically not the case, and this is more just a massive misconception. For one, as I already displayed, he basically survives the FNAF 3 fire, but it's also noted as Scraptrap in the end, as revealed in the Festival Frights, that he survived the FNAF 6 fire, which was a fire that was displayed on maximum temperatures on him. And he basically survived this through basically leaving his body through spiritual means, as he's even note how he's untethered to the world until Andrew drags him back to his physical body, which his physical body is even noted basically how it's a burnt person, but it's still visible. The body is still visible. And it's still functioning. So Afton can tank and endure heavy amounts of fires. Even more noted is that FNAF AR, which is meant to be a replica of Springtrap and William Afton, we literally get a direct skin of him, aka Flametrap, where he is literally on fucking fire. So yeah, I don't know where this claim comes from, but it's bad and should honest to God just stop. But yeah, he basically survives the FNAF 6 fire and stuff. He also basically is implied to basically dismantle Fredbear, basically in order to hide inside him in FNAF 6. Because in FNAF 6, the scrap animatronics are noted to basically hide inside multiple various objects. He also is noted in the game that he basically can, like, in low time, blitz Michael Afton. Not really insane stuff, since this feat has yet to be calced for the distance in the vent section. I'll probably do that and let you guys know. He basically also, like, flashes around in UCN, aka the office and stuff, for his jump scare. And for now the Charlie novels, William Afton basically tanks getting shot by a gun by Clay. It's noted how the gun doesn't even pierce him at all. It just recoils off his body. So basically bro is like near bulletproof. He also overpowers Charlie, aka once again, as revealed in the fourth closet, a robot, and breaks her windpipe. He is also noted to basically leap at her with preternatural speed, which by definition would basically imply basically superhuman levels of speed for his leaping. And basically he has pretty piercing durability, as he basically survives a sharp rod going into his body. Once again, he has pretty good piercing damage. Also, as Scraptrap, he basically is noted in FNAF 6 for the lawsuits and is responsible for dismemberment of humans, breaking the 100 bones of a child, and basically for mutilation of a person, and just, attacking the frontal lobe of children. These are basically FNAF 6 lawsuits, as I already kind of went in depth of these in the Lefty, aka Puppet video, but yeah. Alright, so next up, we're going to basically go over the Afton's Amalgamation. This form of Afton is basically in the Fazbear Frights novels. So I'll explain the point of the Fazbear Frights novels. I already explained its canonicity, but I'll just go in and run down. So basically the Fazbear Frights timeline and its connections to the games is that right after FNAF 6, Afton basically leaves his body through spiritual means and is unbounded. His body somehow survives the FNAF 6 fire, and he's basically immediately transported in the hospital, where he is then tortured by Andrew. And then after that, Afton's body explodes, like Andrew blows up his body, but Afton still once again survives this. Afton is later on basically, he hitchhikes a ride with a Stitch Wraith and basically is part of that body. And then after in the epilogue 6, Afton attacks Andrew and Jake once, and basically after that he becomes the Afton's Amalgamation, fusing himself with trash parts and other animatronic parts in the Fazbear Distribution Center. Now let's go over the Afton's Amalgamation. The Afton's Amalgamation is basically has various different names. It was stated to be the Miscreation. It was stated to be Agony. It was stated to be the Hound from Hell, and it was also stated to be the Being from the Underworld. Yeah, some pretty cool names for Afton. So basically the first thing we're going to go over is how basically it's stated to be 15 foot tall. Note it did get bigger later as it absorbed a forklift. So let's go over Afton's stuff. Larson basically, or the other protagonist in the Frights novels, basically is scared of Afton at first, before he then looks over the cities and stuff and basically is realizing, yo, if I basically let Afton go around do whatever he wants, these neighborhoods are in danger. These buildings are in danger. So Afton's a threat to buildings and a neighborhood. Now, threat level arguments are dependent on how you basically want to argue them, but if we are to use the necessities for other FNAF feats to correlate to this would basically make Afton a threat to buildings or neighborhoods, which would reasonably put him around the building level categories to highballing this to an extent city block level. But he has really good stuff that's later on stated anyways. So, basically, Afton also somewhat overpowers Eleanor, dragging her into his body, which she willingly allows him to do that. It's also noted later how she basically amped him and powered him as, I'll just cut the chase, really. This Afton is weak. This Afton is even noted in the novels, in this series, how he even is barely hanging on to reality. So this is a pretty much on life support Afton. This is an Afton that is weakened beyond words. So Springtrap and Scraptrap should somewhat scale to this version, as well they are more fresh states of Afton, while this one is obviously on life support. So let's go over our on life support Afton that's slightly amped by Eleanor now. Afton crashes through the interior of the factory hallway. Larson even notes as Afton being as fast as a speeding race car and having the force of a battering ram. Yes, this Afton is very strong. A on-life support Afton is this fast. Yes, I'm gonna glaze it. So, yeah, we have some pretty good stuff. Now, if you were to go back to the old Springtrap video, and I still do agree with the calc, this was calculated to be around small building level to building level, so yes, it was mostly off of also using Afton's size, as he is big as heck in this state, so yeah. Also, Afton basically blitzes Larson within a second, impaling him in his foot, which would basically reasonably give him some subsonic layers of speed. Afton also destroys a forklift that Larson basically was trying to kill him with, basically trying to, ram him into the lake with, only for Afton to break it in an instant and start absorbing the forklift into his body, which made him a lot bigger. And sadly, after this, he also is killed by the puppet, but hey, let's continue. He also basically rips aside a hole into the side of the factory to try to catch Larson once again, so he could tear holes into buildings. And he also calls himself the very thing of agony. Now, if you go to the Shadow Bonnie video, you know what agony is. But I will be making a video right after this, and also linking a video in the description that explains how Remnant and emotions work within the verse, so you guys can understand the lore a bit. Now, this part is a mixed one, but it would come in context with other feats. So, Afton is basically stated to be powered by evil, and is stated to have unimaginable evil. I will put the scans in front. Now, by the context is that negative emotions or agony is stated to be powering and strengthening the characters and makes them stronger. And evil is a negative emotion and so qualifies as agony. Afton's not only pure evil, but is stated to have unimaginable layers of it, which in a verse where basically humans can comprehend infinite possibilities and even space-time, Afton's strength at a hypothetically full-powered would basically be way above comprehension, which basically would place Afton around high uni, or basically 4D if you want to argue humans can comprehend space-time, which, oh, wait a minute, here's a scan, they actually do. So, yeah, Afton would basically scale, at least the Afton's Amalgamation, because I'm not counting this towards Springtrap and Scraptrap. Well, you could probably, you probably could, but I wouldn't want to. But this would make the Afton's Amalgamation and specifically straight up high universal or 4D if you want to argue it that way. Now, I basically did note how Afton should somewhat partially scale to Eleanor. Now, I'm not going to go in depth what Eleanor does, because there's way too many stuff that she does, but in short context, she's the main villain of Fazbear Frights. She has a circus baby-like appearance, but basically is way taller. She's also responsible for every Fazbear Frights monsters that is not fetch. So basically, Eleanor is all the Fazbear Frights monsters. You guys see why basically it is too long to go over her, because there's way too many feats and way too many haxes. But for the sake of this video, I will be going over her attack potency feats. Note, Afton half scales to this. Afton's Amalgamation would fully scale to this, since this is basically just Eleanor amping Afton's body. So let's go over Eleanor real quick. Alright, let me go to my stuff real quick. Alright, so basically Eleanor as Blackbird basically creates a big storm, over Noel. Noel thinks that this was made out of from him, but no, this is from the Blackbird. Eleanor is the Blackbird, which was calculated to be around the large island level ranges. Now, we know that this is basically made off of Agony, as Eleanor's stuff is obviously off Agony. She has an Agony spontation. Agony, once again, as I noted with Remnant and it, are basically stated to amplify the characters physically, so we can use this as basically KE, or kinetic energy, or that Agony spontations or Agony users, high ones, can generate this much energy. So, and also here's, 2 other scans that basically would make this consistent, as this was done 3 times in the story. So yeah, it will be consistently for this. Eleanor's next feat basically comes from her controlling the ball pit. Now, let's go. Now, I'm going to read it from basically how it's noted from my good friend Agony on Discord. Now, basically, Eleanor created the ball pit. The ball pit's dimensions are all separate universes, meaning that basically Eleanor would be low multi. So, let's go over into the pit real quick. The ball pit is basically Eleanor's creation, a place where she stores all of her agony and remnants of her victims. It allows one to travel through the different memories and time periods, which would grant them time traveling. Although Eleanor fully scales to this, so you could probably just say that she has immeasurable speed off of this. Eleanor can completely control it and change it how she sees fit, which would also give her reality warping, which also can have an actual effect on the memories. Basically, Larson is able to change the events of Blackbird, and Jake is also able to change the events of Count the Ways, aka Millie getting killed by Funtime Freddy, or just Eleanor in disguise. Now, basically, Eleanor is capable of throwing anybody into these dimensions regardless of their distance. Larson is sent into it multiple times without being anywhere near Eleanor or even the ball pit. No, in the story, Larson basically tries to shoot at Eleanor, but finds himself literally at the pit. So Eleanor, within an instant, can just transport anyone she basically sees into the ball pit, aka these memories. Now, if we're allowed to use the Into the Pit game, these are basically even noted as whole new universes, as well as the fact that in the description of Into the Pit also suggests also will be able to change the events, which would even be supporting the original claim that is meant in the Fazbear Frights novels. So, this would basically give Eleanor low multiversal scaling, along with her scaling to this physically, as we know, this is from Agony. Agony amplifies the character, so yada yada yada. So Eleanor will be around 4D to low multi. Once again, Afton's Amalgamation scales to her, and this is basically just her in general. So yeah, Afton's Amalgamation would range between the building level to city block ranges, high uni ranges to 4D ranges, and to low multi ranges. And with Eleanor fully with him, he would also have a measurable speed. It is also noted for Eleanor feats how basically she moves faster than sound. Faster than sound would basically be around the supersonic ranges. She also, as Blackbird, basically blitzes Noel and basically is able to move and react within a nanosecond. Now, I am iffy on this, as nanosecond feats are usually used to be FTL, but they are usually used in metaphoric sense for being subsonic, so this is more so realistic to be a subsonic feat. But if you want to be a rat and rat the feat, then basically this would be FTL. But hey, I don't like doing that stuff, and it's just weird. But yeah, Afton also for other inverses should have partial scalings to that of Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, mainly due to the fact that Shadow Freddy is literally a wickedness of him, and basically him and Afton share their entire qualities together, basically. So yeah, so those are basically Afton's attack potency, speed, and all that stuff, and characters that he should partially scale to. Now, I'm gonna cut the recording, take a little break, and I'll come back and basically talk about Afton's hacks and abilities, and we'll be done with the video. Alright, so basically we're gonna be going over Afton's hacks and abilities now. I still do to an extent agree with the ones that I had in the old video, so you guys can obviously go to that one, but I kind of redid it on my new server because my old one got raided. So I'll be reading it off of literally how I typed it in Discord, so I'm probably gonna sound like a bot, but I really don't care at the end of it because, you know, you're still gonna watch it. So Afton would have immortality type showed with other tiles or forms that he basically can survive getting spring lock, which is shown in other statements to have, or they break down and crush your body, along with that many instances of feats that normally cripples of humans. So yeah, he would have that. He would also, via FNAF 3 and the gameplay, basically have supernatural aura, hallucination manipulation, technology manipulation. Utilizing the phantoms can cause damage to the players mentally and technology around them, along with that Afton's mere presence on cameras causes them to go haywire in the gameplay. He would also have minor resistance to audio manipulation. He can be sometimes resistant to that of the audio and not even be phased by it within the gameplay. He will basically have fire manipulation via Dark Springtrap. He has possibly fire damage and survives and is unscathed by FNAF 3 fire. He would have technology manipulation, basically via the Twisted Ones, as Afton can control them through a choreography. Afton would also have basically remnant manipulation, as basically he not only injects it with himself, but can manipulate it and basically, you know, control it, and how he injects others with it through the MCI, etc., etc., etc. Afton via UCM would also have death manipulation and existence erasure via the death coin. The scan basically shows it. Afton can basically use this and just literally erase the opponent in the UCN cast from basically being there, putting them out for the end of the match. So Afton basically could just use this in a fight if you give him like some prep time shit. I don't know. After would also basically have fire manipulation via man room and possibly low mid regeneration. He basically was able to basically make his arms and most of his flesh come back despite being at Scraptrap. He basically, well, didn't have any of these particles. So it's likely that he did, to some extent, thanks to Agony or Remnant, basically regenerated some of his body. He would also have soul manipulation. Arthur basically describes the man, aka Afton, reaching into his soul. He would also have absolute will or indomitable will. Afton's will to live and his resistance to every method of killing, as the hospital staff did try every way of killing him to a person. Basically, after analyzing him, they basically come to the conclusion that he is a violation to the very concept of nature. After would also have soul manipulation and possession. He basically is revealed to have been in the Stitcherate body spiritually, as Jake and Andrew came to the conclusion of people dying, that basically it wasn't necessarily them, but also the other person inside the body. In Epilogue 6 of Fazbear Frights, it was revealed that Afton was in the body, as basically immediately as Andrew tried leaving, Afton basically was there. And how they came to the conclusion, yada yada yada. Now, let's scale a little bit of the Stitcherate hacks. Via this, Afton would basically have death manipulation or just death inducement and instant kill and Dura negation. Basically, just literally touching someone causes their body to die immediately and vaporize them physically and their soul, etc. This was basically explained. Okay, so let's basically explain the hacks like this, for example, and how it functions. So let's say Afton's like against, I don't know, Sukuna. Both are 3D. Sukuna could do whatever the fuck he wants, but if he tries to get close to Afton and tries pummeling him, if Afton's able to touch him just even the slightest bit, Sukuna would basically die immediately, and it would also go to his soul. As we know, Afton can reach into the soul. Once again, this is even a weakened Afton, by the way. Basically, think of this hacks as like Shigaraki's decay, except it goes to your soul. So this would also be a Dura negation. He would also basically have non-physical interaction and technically soul manipulation. He basically drags Andrew's spirit form from trying to move on in heaven, and how Stitch, Wraith, and Andrew have a struggle with Afton. On life support one, by the way. Afton would also have absorption, transformation, shape-shifting, and biological manipulation. As we know, he basically absorbs animatronic parts, trash, etc. to basically form into the Afton's Amalgamation. He would also have absorption and power nullification via Eleanor amping him, which I've already showed the scans for that one earlier, so I'm not going to. We have madness manipulation and hallucination manipulation. It basically causes hallucinations and effects on Hudson, and what we in the Fazbear Fight story, what we found. He also has telekinesis. After haunting Hudson and the area, Hudson gets moved like some sink into a toilet and have to blink in a second, so his telekinesis can work at a subsonic ratio. Afton also has resistance to Dura negation, soul manipulation, nightmare inducement, mind manipulation, and mental manipulation. In Man in Ruin, while yes, he's getting tortured and inhabited by Andrew, is stated and shown to be fighting, to be in a way fighting him and inducing nightmares back onto Andrew. This is once again a on life support Afton, so hypothetically a full prime Afton basically could fully do this to somebody. He would also have hallucination manipulation, gas manipulation, and illusion creation. Basically, via the story Didophobia, he basically uses hallucinogenic gases to make the nightmare animatronics go from mannequins to the nightmares that we see in FNAF 4. He also would have destiny manipulation or fate denial, as if you want to use the UCN voice lines, he has there's the one with the Bonnie one where basically Afton was always destined to fail in the context of this world. Afton, obviously, as we know, canonically does beat the game, so he basically would have resistance to this. And he would also have power bestowal, animation. Afton's basically capable of inanimating various objects in the precise location, using his agony to attack Hudson, and he would have perception manipulation. Hudson sees rooms differently throughout the story, and as Springtrap wants him to feel as much agony as possible. I won't go over FNAF World Springtrap. I'll probably go over that in another video, or just FNAF World scaling in general. So yeah, without that, this is basically the video. Hope people take this video with obviously appreciation and stuff, as you know, these videos do take a good while, and obviously me even getting the motivation to. Also, thank you guys so much for the support on the channel. We are almost at 1K subscribers, so please support the channel, shout it out, share it to a friend, family member, etc., etc. We need to hit that 1K, because I used to have 300K. I lost it, obviously, and because my channel got struck down, and I'm trying to rebuild that image. So yeah, help your boy out. Without that, this is the unknown. Enjoying Afton scaling. Peace out, you guys.